Hey folks, hello, hello. I've seen a couple of you over this past weekend, obviously talking about a PMB Meetup in Vancouver, which was an awesome time. We were about 52 of us. We were back in Vancouver after a year, almost a week out. Maybe it was the 5th of February or something last year. Actually, no, last year it was maybe end of January, and this time it was first week of February. But yeah, was happy to be back and at the same location as well. We've done a few of these in Vancouver over the years, and this location was the first repeat location. I think this is, yeah, second time in a row that we did something with them there. Great spot, really good food. People are really nice to work with at that location. And of course, we got positive feedback. Yeah, there we go. Thank you, Manish. Manish is doing his best to keep me on track here. So yeah, Rogue, Wet Bar and Kitchen. There we go. It's not Rouge, Air Canada Rouge, of course. Nothing to do with this bar, which was Rogue, Wet Bar and Kitchen. So yeah, we went back. Great times. A couple of things that we noticed right off the back. I was a little concerned about 50 people packing into that space. What I had not accounted for is unlike the last time, this time when we were at that space, which is on the main floor, the floor above us, and it's an open concept. So the floor above us was hosting a wedding, I think, or some kind of reception. So there were a lot of people, and some people rightly pointed out that as things got going on our end as well, it got real noisy. Just because at some point, even I was sort of starting to think, oh my God, this is getting so loud. Uh, and enough that the activity that we had planned out, the way we had planned out that in our typical fashion, which is we typically split out into smaller groups, get to discuss amongst each other and sort of report back to the larger room. Unfortunately, given how loud it was, with both the two events going on at the same time in an open concept restaurant, it wasn't ideal for that level of engagement and activity. We still did it. We still had great sort of engagement around the things that we wanted to, but it was more, as I'd called it, exploration. Yeah, self-exploration, which is we had these bigger charts and some aircrafts and routes mentioned, and people were essentially writing and discussing what the best ways to fly those particular aircraft, fly those particular routes was, how to earn those points, how to, book those, and all of the good things. So hopefully, even if you didn't take partake in the actual writing of some of your ideas and ideation process on those charts, you at least got a picture of that because there was some real good nuggets on that by the end of the night. So that was the Vancouver event. And I also sort of get excited about these events that we do, not simply because of being able, not simply because I'm meeting with everybody and we get to do an activity. It's all the smaller things that we do around. I had spent some time with people I hadn't seen in a while. Mr. Ricky himself. So went to he picked a spot called the Lunch Lady. If you haven't been in Vancouver, great spot, like ridiculously good spot. It's a Michelin Bib Gourmand recommendation. Um, the place was just fantastic. One of the best lunches I've had. It's Vietnamese influence, of course, elevated dining, Vietnamese dining, and it lived up to its expectation and then some. And not to be undone, after I caught up with Ricky, a couple of us also ended up going to Anna Lena is another Michelin star. They got their Michelin star just last year. Is a Vancouver hotspot now. So we were able to get our dinner reservations in, and thanks to Anna Lena, I think is also the number one rated Vancouver restaurant in Canada's 100 best list. So if you don't follow, definitely look them up. If you just Google Canada's 100 best, you'll see the list. They do 100 best restaurants across the country every year, and Anna Lena is the highest ranked Vancouver entry in that group. And the good news was they were also one of the locations for the dining credit for Amex. So we were able to use our $200 dining credit on the Amex Platinum, which was nice. So yeah, again, catching up with friends, some great food as you would expect in Vancouver. So on his recommendation, we tried out another Richmond specialty, which was Happy Valley Restaurant, I think it was called. Um, very regional Chinese cuisine, and this place served, I think Stefan said northeastern. The food was from northeast of China, and not your usual fare, but I enjoyed every bit of it. Very rustic, very authentic, and yeah, just enjoyed my 3 meals in Vancouver all around the meetup. So this gives you an idea of how I structure these meetups typically for myself. So the meetup is the central event, of course, and then I try and catch up with friends, and then I try and catch up with other people around. Industry, sometimes work stuff, most times it's just catching up with friends, and then it's usually around good food. We have only planned, I mean, Points Sibling or myself, I've only planned as far as April. So the April is the Points Travel Festival. So it's all hands on deck for that particular conference. If you haven't bought your tickets or registered for your tickets yet, make sure you do. We have a decent number of spots. I think 60, 70 spots are left on that one. The capacity is going to be 200 people max. This is the first year we are doing it. And if all things go well and are successful, we already have resources in place to expand this event, fingers crossed, to being the typical 350, 400 people conference. That's for 2027. So, yeah, that's my little sales pitch for you to attend the April event in Toronto if you haven't bought your tickets already. But yeah, if you guys have been up to something fun around in the last couple of weeks since we did one of these, let me know. Casey says was in Cancun last week and unfortunately wasn't in Vancouver for the meetup. Flew Porter Reserve home through Ottawa. Nice. Casey, how was Porter Reserve to Cancun? I've only ever flown Porter Reserve between Ottawa and Vancouver. And I've written a review as well and kind of spoken about this. I enjoyed my experience in Reserve, enjoyed the food, the drinks, and all of that. But I did find that usually about 3 hours into the ride, I was getting a little fidgety and I definitely wanted a bit more um, shoulder room. The seats are really good in giving you the pitch, the space for your knees and for your legs because it's Porter Reserve. But of course, the seat width is much the same as economy seats, so a very marginal difference, if at all. And unfortunately, every time I've flown Porter Reserve, I find that usually around that 3 hour mark, and I've done a couple of those Ottawa, Vancouver back and forth. And then, of course, I've done a lot of Ottawa, Toronto. And for anything less than 2 hours, Porter Reserve is just amazing product. So Casey saying only did it home was good, but 9 hours total was a bit long for it, but redeemed 22,500 Alaska for it, which didn't hurt. 100%. And I don't know if you folks have been reading all of the things all the great things that Rachel has been writing on Points, Miles, and Bling. Rachel has recently covered sweet spots for the Atmos program, which is the combined program, Atmos Awards, which is a combined program for Alaska and Hawaiian. And right now, using Atmos Rewards to book Porter Reserve is perhaps some of the best sweet spots out there in the world of loyalty programs. So for all of your Porter flying, if you are trying to do that, unless of course you have Porter miles through the credit cards and such, which is fine. But just the sheer value you get out of booking Porter Reserve by using Alaska Atmos is just absolutely, like I said, clutch. And that's something that I've been recommending to most people. And I continue to use Porter myself, mostly for positioning flights, to be honest. But a lot of my Ottawa, Toronto, which ends up being these work trips that I typically go in Toronto downtown. So flying to Billy Bishop, do my thing for the full day, and then fly back home. Ends up being Porter if the price difference is quite a bit between Air Canada and Porter. But as we've discussed on this forum, Air Canada has increased their presence in Billy Bishop significantly, not just for domestic flying, but also for US and cross-border flying. So it's becoming one of those, hubs, smaller hubs that is seeing greater competition, which is fantastic for all of us. Yeah. Anybody else has flown Porter or Porter Reserve recently? Has feedback? Actually, who was it? I think Barry, who some of you may have met at the meetup. Barry was flying to from Toronto on to somewhere in Miami, somewhere something to do with either Miami or Fort Lauderdale. one of the two, and was with Porter, and he shared some pictures of the food and things. Looked great, as usual. My only sort of little gripe is that I'm not a big fan of eating cold food. I do like to have warm meals as much as possible. And unfortunately, Porter just doesn't have ovens in flight, and that's to do with the structure of the aircraft and such, not so much to do with Porter. But that said, Porter does a great job of the kind of elevated fare that they serve on these flights. So it's not your usual cold pasta, this, that, and the other. The food offerings is much more elevated. My only complaint has been with some kind of salad that they served, and it had brown rice. And just cold rice is where I draw the line. Um, and I wouldn't eat that, but everything else was really, really good from what I remember the few times I've flown Porter. TP says, flying Porter next weekend to Vegas. Price was good. We'll see if we survive 5 hours. You'll be fine. You'll survive 5 hours. Are you flying Porter? Porter Reserve. If it's just the regular Porter, the good thing about either Porter or Porter Reserve is because it doesn't have any middle seats, if you're traveling with a companion or a partner, it's a really cozy setup and you'll be just fine. The Wi-Fi is fast enough every time I've flown to not just do emails and such, to actually do streaming. So Netflix, YouTube, whatever you want to do, it's fast enough to do that. So you should be entertained enough, and the food and doing all of that. Oh, doing emergency exit. So if you're doing emergency exit, it's as close as you'll get to reserve without paying reserve pricing, which is fantastic. And yeah, enjoy your flight to Vegas. So actually, all the Porter talk, and I made a note of this. I wanted to talk about a couple of. I mentioned all the restaurants I went to and whatnot. So I have to absolutely mention the fact that I was blown away at Signature Cafe in Vancouver. This was the first time I was going through Vancouver since the cafe opened, maybe October, November of last year. It's only been a couple of months. And the Signature Cafe in Vancouver, that's the first of the two that's opening. The second one is all boarded up. So the one that is open right now is near gate 66, 67 in Terminal C, which is where we were all flying back from uh, Vancouver to Ottawa, Toronto, wherever else. And not only is the physical space really well designed, but the food is just excellent. And I mean, I tried the breakfast sandwich. I was there super early, 7 a.m. Vancouver time, which was already 10 a.m. Eastern time. I had breakfast sandwich and I had Lee's Donuts. If you haven't had Lee's Donuts is a Vancouver institution. So do that as a separate thing while you're in Vancouver next. But the specific donut that I absolutely fell head over heels for was called the churro donut. I'd never had churro donut at Lee's, but I had this at the Signature Suite, and it is the Lee's donut. It is Lee's Donuts that they serve in the lounge as well. The churro donut was absolutely mad. That's how good it was. And I kid you not, uh, Amy, Mike, Himbo, we were all there all together. Uh, at some and at some point we all noticed and looked at each other when we saw a few people walking away with like literally 6 bags, because each donut is packed in individual bags for you to consume while you're there. Grab and go concept, and you can also have it in the lounge if you wanted to. Literally saw 3, 4 people just walking out with 6 bags. So basically half a dozen donuts as they were leaving the lounge. And to be honest, usually I would snicker at that kind of behavior or judge, like really judge them for being that person. But my God, those donuts were so good. I was like, good on ya. And I wish I had the gumption to take 6 bags and walk away. Uh, yeah, didn't kind of, soft respect to these people that were doing what they needed to do. But those donuts are something else. So if you don't get status, well, I was going to overstate something. No, it's are the donuts good enough to get Air Canada status? Yes, yes, they are. But you could well just make a trip to Vancouver and go down to Lee's Donuts for the same thing. And I'm sure you'll enjoy, because I remember one of the afternoons before the meetup, Barry did go to Lee's Donuts and shared the picture on his Instagram. Speaking of Instagram, if you haven't seen all the pictures and stuff from the meetup yet, it's up on Instagram, Point Smiles and Bling. Go check them out there. Uh, yeah, so wanted to point out the crazy donuts and signature suite. The second signature suite is scheduled to open in the next couple of months. So Vancouver is going to, sorry, back up, not signature suite, signature cafe. The second signature cafe is going to open up domestically for Vancouver as well in the next couple of months. And that one is located closer to where the US gates are. You don't have to cross into the US gate side of things. It's just before that, which is fantastic, which means Vancouver, if you're flying in and out Vancouver domestic, you have access to both of these signature cafes. Air Canada Signature Cafe, which is great. And then, of course, one being closer to the US. If you were hopping on a cross-border flight, you'd obviously use that one. It remains to be seen if it's the same size, same kind of concept. I'm assuming yes, because there's no reason for them to be distinct. But yeah, so that second one is coming up in the next couple of months, I'm told. I did see that it was all boarded up, but the signs are all there. So looks good. And looks like the regular Maple Leaf Lounge is also open and available, but I didn't bother going in there. It's the more refreshed lounge. So it's not, it did undergo renovation, but not like a complete overhaul or a change. But I think it was more of a facelift and upgrade to the Maple Leaf Lounges. Maple Leaf Lounge in Vancouver. Oh, Heather is here too. Hey, Heather. Thank you for joining in. And Instagram link. I'm assuming that's the PMB link I was talking about. Just going to quickly click through. Yep, that's the one. Thank you for linking. Manish is saying, do you think the new Air Canada Cafe will have different food drink offerings compared to the one that's already open? I'd be surprised, Manish, to be very honest. I mean, if they managed to pull that, the reason I'm being apprehensive is this entire grab and go concept, the two Air Canada, two signature cafes, and all of that is to alleviate the kind of traffic the airport sees domestically and the kind of people with status that airport sees traveling in and out. If they make it distinct from one another, and one ends up being better than the other in a longer run, then I guess more people will gravitate to one and not the other, which defeats the purpose of kind of, easing up the overall traffic in and out of the main Maple Leaf Lounge. So with that in mind, I think it'll be a little more in line. And from what little I know about corporate partnerships and agreements, it's much easier to have a larger food and beverage agreement with vendors. So I don't see why they would have different vendors serving different kind of food and drinks in two different cafes, which are essentially like 100 meters from each other. So I don't think it's going to be different from one another. There may be subtle differences, but hard to tell. Where were we? Yeah, so let's talk about a couple of news items that came across the desk, which I think is important if you haven't been paying attention over the last week or 10 days. Marriott announced their first major promotion of 2026, and this was a topic of discussion at the meetup as well, because I got couple of people at least asking me, and I walked into a conversation in a huddle of people that were talking about, hey, when does the double elite night promotion come through from Marriott? Well, the answer is here, and unfortunately, it's not a good one. So while we do have our first major promotion by Marriott for 2026, drum roll, it is not double elite nights. And whatever the opposite of drum roll is, the sad trombone might be the opposite of that. Wah, wah, wah. So yeah, not double elite nights, but what it is you earn 2,500 bonus points per stay and an additional bonus night per brand that you try. So looks like Marriott is trying a new concept, kind of borrowing from the Hyatt brand explorer concept. So for every new brand that you try, and about 30 brands or so, there is some exclusion. So let's say even 25 brands out in that portfolio. So if you're able to stay at different brands every time. You'll get one elite night per brand, which is a really good one. Registration obviously is required, and the stay time frame is between, what is it, February 25th and May 10th. So enough time for you to explore a few brands if you were traveling and you don't mind checking in, checking out, and hopping in and out to get more of the brands and just to get your elite nights. So unfortunately, not as simple as double elite nights, but at least it's something. And the 2,500 points per stay really doesn't do much, to be honest. So it's sure, it is something. And as usual with these promotions, cash bookings count, point stays do not. So make sure that when you're doing it, if you're doing it for elite nights, make sure these are cash bookings. And some folks at the was it at the event or maybe after, there was some discussion on our Discord about some folks not seeing this on their dashboard to register for the promotion. We went back and double checked, and Marriott has confirmed that this is a global promotion, and everybody should see it on their dashboard. Rachel, while doing some plugging and playing while writing this for the blog post, mentioned that if you try different browsers, it was sometimes working in a different browser and not in some. But that said, it should come through on your app, even if you didn't get it in that first round, the first hour when we all started writing about this. It should have come through for you by now. It's been a few days, it's been a couple of days. So if you still don't see it and you still haven't been able to register, I would call Marriott, and they obviously you let them know that you're looking for that global promotion, and they'll be able to manually register you into this promotion. And yeah, and so to make sure that your bookings and such are all done after you have registered, just to keep things in the clear. So that's the promo. For me particularly, I'm not going to go out of my way to try different brands on a cash booking. Between the US Bonvoy card, Canadian Bonvoy card, and whatnot, I have enough points in circulation with these Bonvoy cards, and uh, you know, and meets the need in terms of what I get from these cards. So I'm not going to go out of my way just to, get my elite night status. Of course, if you're doing a status run for a higher status, I typically am okay to meet between a few cash stays, and a few um, award stays. I typically am okay to reach platinum every year, and that's where I've drawn the line. I don't go running beyond that for a status with Bonvoy. If it organically comes to me and I become titanium, that's great. But I don't think I end up close enough to titanium to make a run for it. And I've noticed this since the COVID years. So now I just hang back and let the organic things roll. And if it's platinum status that I end up with, so be it. It's decent enough overseas, and in North America, I find that most places I'm usually going for work. Like even this trip even the meetup trip that I did, I was at the Delta Suites, was more out of convenience and how the proximity to the place, as opposed to wanting to maximize elite nights and things like that, which has become my travel style these days, especially for work within North America. And when we do vacations and stuff, if I don't think I'm able to if I don't get auto upgraded using my upgrade certificates and such, then I typically will ask them at check-in to see if they have any cash upgrades. And then I'll throw a little bit of cash at it if I must be in a suite, and if I'm with my wife or whoever I'm traveling with, then we just do that, as opposed to worry too much about constantly wanting to be in a suite. Right. So that was the Marriott promotion. Um, Lukewarm, I would say. It obviously is not the pizzazz of double elite nights, but it has something there with the brand exploring. And if you were actually, who was it? Who's going to Vegas? Somebody was going to Vegas. Was it Callum? No. Manish? No. Who said they were going to Vegas? TP said they were going to Vegas. Uh, yeah, if you were going to Vegas, there's several Marriott properties around, so you could hop from one to the next and get a few elite nights rolling. For even if you're doing like 3 or 4 night stays, you could easily hop 3, 4 brands and be able to check off those. Or if you're going to a bigger city, then like a Toronto or a Vancouver or wherever else, hopefully somewhere in Asia where even cash rates are cheaper, like a Dubai or somewhere in China. Or Rachel wrote a great post about points value in India and how it's like a hidden gem for both Bonvoy and Hyatt members. So if you haven't read that post yet, definitely read that up. It'll give you a new perspective for points redemptions and why India remains high up for value on points and points redemption. Bangkok used to be back in the day, but I find more and more with the dynamic pricing, Bangkok it has become more seasonal. But India tends to be, if you're booking on points, super cheap. If you're booking in cash, super expensive. And then, of course, you have the typical hospitality and stuff if you're staying at a higher end, sort of Bonvoy or Hyatt properties and such. And by higher end, I mean, if you're with these Western brands, you're already doing a lot better than for your service and hospitality. Um, but I've stayed at like category two Hyatts in India or even category one in Kathmandu, I think, in Nepal. And the level of service you get is just insane. You're like, oh, this is supposed to be a category one hotel, and why am I being treated like a prince? And by prince, I don't mean Ricky, just mean Indian prince. Uh, uh, yeah, it's just the hospitality and service standards are very different, as you folks already know, the well-traveled folks that are listening to this. I don't have to sell that aspect of it, but definitely read up on Rachel's post about it's on Points, Miles, and Bling about India and the point value, the redemption value that you still get in hotels and chains across India. And so we're talking about Bonvoy. Amex Bonvoy came with Amex Marriott Bonvoy cards came up with the brand new offer, the elevated offer of 110,000 points, which is great. And they also increased the referral bonus and they bumped it up for a business card from 15,000 per referral to 25,000 and on the personal card from 10,000 to 20,000. And both personal cards and the business card are both 110,000 points, which is fantastic. Your typical thing about getting, say, let's start with business Bonvoy card, the Amex Business Bonvoy. It's 80,000 points after you charge $10,000 in purchases in the first 6 months. And then you have the 30,000 when you make a purchase in your 15-month of card membership, which is typically that retention piece that they've added on. This is not the first time they've been doing it. The good thing about this round of offers is instead of having three tiers, which is welcome bonus for spending X amount in 3 to 6 months, then a decent chunk more for doing more spend, and then a smaller retention bonus, they have now gone back to a two-tier or two-step requirement for you to earn the entire 110,000. The first one being 80,000 points after you charge $10,000 in the first 6 months. And then the second chunk comes as 30,000 points when you make a spend in your 15th month of card membership. And on the personal side, it's 110 as well, like I said, overall with 80,000 points when you charge 6,000 in the first 6 months, and then the similar 30,000 points when you make a purchase in the 15th month. So really, really strong cards offers are back, and you should definitely pay attention. If you don't have the card, get it because we have seen slightly higher. I think last summer we saw 150,000 bonus offers on the Bonvoy cards. However, they came with much higher spend requirements. Like I said, it used to be three-step process to get the entire haul of 150,000. Now it's just sort of slightly lower at 110, but at least the spend requirements are a lot more manageable, in my opinion, especially when you are just around the corner from tax season. And a lot of people may have some tax obligations to easily meet their spend requirements. What else? Air Canada announced a new redemption partner. We are starting to. Somebody made a comment. I was in a meeting with Air Canada recently, and somebody on their side made a comment saying, every time I think there's no more partners to be had, somebody in Aeroplan surprises them with a new partner on board. And that's how I feel with the new redemption partner, ITA Airways out of Italy. So if you don't know of them, their hub city is Rome. Yeah, ITA actually operates several spots, long haul flights into North America. So New York already, Miami, LA, and they've already announced new seasonal routes out of Toronto, Boston, DC, Chicago, Houston. I think out of this list, Toronto, Boston, what else did I put down? Toronto, Boston, Houston, San Francisco are all new seasonal flights that start in March, and the Toronto one will be on their newer A330-900 Neo, and that's the one that has their newest business class products. If you are interested in exploring another product on, I've never flown ITA Airways, but from based on what I see through pictures and such, at least that A330-900 Neos look really, really nice, and you will be able to book them out of Toronto. So typically, if you are doing it out of the East Coast to Italy with an Aeroplan redemption, you're looking at about 70,000 in business class. And if you're doing it out of the West Coast, say San Francisco or out west, LA, then you're looking at around that 90,000 mark, which is still pretty solid in terms of getting you all the way through to Rome and then onwards from that. There's pretty solid connection. ITA has a bigger and better presence in Europe, and of course through to Asia as well. All right, on to the next topic. Air Canada, since we were talking about Air Canada, may as well mention, if you haven't heard the news, Air Canada announced that they had ordered 8 new A350-1000 aircraft, which is the wide-body, long-range aircraft, which is fantastic, the newest, shiniest quote-unquote toy out there in the aviation industry. Actually, it's not super new either. It is new as they're delivering. It is state-of-the-art and new. For some of you that may have heard about Qantas's Sunrise, Project Sunrise, it was built all around A350-1000s and has been delayed and for multiple months at a time. We are still waiting for it to be sort of for that Project Sunrise to take off. It was supposed to be for 2025. We are now into 2026. Haven't seen anything yet, but I did get a chance to fly the A350-1000 with Etihad, and I flew them from Chicago to Abu Dhabi and then Abu Dhabi to Sydney. I think that was my route. And that Chicago to Abu Dhabi for sure, 100% was actually no. So yes, Chicago to Abu Dhabi was on the A350-1000s in business class. Fantastic cabin. So Etihad already has a whole bunch of these A350-1000s that they were, I guess, one of the first airlines to place the orders for these newer aircraft just before COVID, maybe. But as things came back on, Etihad was one of the first ones to have these on their routes. And unfortunately, Airbus has just been slower at delivering these. But good to see that Air Canada is changing or upping its strategy and bringing some of these other wide bodies or Airbus wide bodies, as 787-10s and things have been pretty slow in delivery as well. Speaking of 787-10s, Air Canada has a few 787-10s. Somebody will have to look up how many and whatnot. I don't remember that, but I do know that they have 787-10s that are scheduled to be delivered this year in 2026. So for all my excitement of for the A321 XLRs, the narrow bodies that are about to come through on the Air Canada route and network, now I have renewed excitement. Just as I'm talking about this, I didn't think about these 787-10s, but yeah, totally. I think that's coming this year as well. So we'll keep an eye out and see what's coming on that 787-10, which routes get sanctioned on that on the Air Canada metal. Rahul is asking, isn't Air India bringing the new 787-9s to YYZ? Ooh, Rahul, wouldn't that be amazing? I don't know if they're bringing it to Toronto or if that has been announced already, but the brand new 787-9s that they have completely remodeled and refurbished, and it's in their elevated service, kind of like their. So there's two aircrafts that Air India is really banking on. The first one, obviously, we've heard of and written about, has been the A350s, which have been very popular with the doors and the Air India fancy suites that we see in business class. The other one is the 787-9s. I am flying the 787 brand new service that has launched from Mumbai to Frankfurt. I'm flying that next month. So super looking forward to that. And I think, Rahul, you might not be amiss if Air India was getting the 787-10s for Toronto. But from what I know right now, for the 787-9s, the newer ones, the shiny mint new ones, only route that's servicing the 787-9s right now is Mumbai, Frankfurt. And I was able to get myself booked on that one using Air Canada, which is fantastic. So my route on that one, I actually was able to make a decent Aeroplan booking. I did Mumbai, Frankfurt, New York, and that Frankfurt, New York is on Singapore, the Fifth Freedom, Singapore business, and then onwards to Toronto, connecting, and JFK to Toronto. All right, take care, folks. Have a good one. Cheers. Bye.